Well, good morning, everyone. It is September 13th, 2023. Welcome to the DAC meeting. It's 9:01 a.m. We have a roll call, please.
Brad McPherson,
Present.
Nick Mielich,
Present?
Brian Chegas,
Present.
Michael Cuevas,
Present.
Kim Doe.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Roger Jensen, Stephen Graham, and Gregory Gable are absent.
Okay, thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes from August 9th, 2023. Are there any comments or issues on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approval of minutes. Next is a report from the city urban designer.
Good morning, Claudia Baben, City Urban Designer. I don't have any updates for you.
Thank you, Claudia. Next is remarks by the chairperson. I am sitting in. I have no remarks. Next is declaration of ex parte communications. Anyone have any ex parte communications? And seeing none, no ex parte communications. At this point, we will open the public hearing and swear in the speakers. If you're speaking or representing anything and going to talk today, please be sworn in.
Let the record show that Gregory Gable is in attendance.
Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, moving on to continued cases. DAC case number 23-02, a request by Donna Weinberger of Inspire Recovery LLC on behalf of property owners Abe Haruvi for a Class B special use permit to establish a family community residence in an existing structure as required by section 94-106A7 and to establish a community residence located within 660 linear feet of an existing community residence as required by section 94-2733A of the zoning and land development regulations and other such matters as may be contained in the application. Location: this property is located at 414 9th Street within Commissioner District Number 3, Commissioner Christy Fox.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have to recuse myself from DAC case number 2302. I have a financial conflict, and I have to recuse myself from code revision case number, I'm not sure what number it is now. 0423?
The code revision case number 2302 will be continued.
Okay, well, I'm going to recuse myself now from it, but I have to
Okay.
recuse myself from this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Leah Bigelow. I'm with Inspire Recovery. I just want to give you a little brief overview. Donna's going to speak after I'm done, just about who we are and what we do. We've been in the community since 2021 as a family community residence. We have an existing one in the area already that you guys are aware of from the report. The biggest thing that is precluding us, that has us here today, is the 660 feet rule. And we are really talking about a matter of about 75 feet. We, property line to property line is not 660, it's 584. And if you go door to door, it actually is 661. So there is Dixie Highway, separates both neighborhoods. 414, which is what we're here for today, the closest one is 312. It's on the other side of Dixie and effectively functions as a completely different neighborhood. We are not the typical family community residence that you see all over the news in South Florida. It's part of the reason I pride myself on working at Inspire, because I'm actually from up north, and I'm used to kind of helping people looking a little bit different. And part of the reason I've been with Inspire for 5 years is because I feel like they do it right. The houses are run in an orderly fashion. There's a level system where people get increased responsibility and privileges, and it really is a family. Current residents and past residents, like, we stay connected, we give back to the neighborhood, we contribute to its improvement, which is what you guys are here to do as well, and we try to do our own part in being good citizens, good neighbors, and not contributing to the blight. So it is with my sincerest hope that you consider this request for the Special B permit so we can continue to operate both residences. The displacement it would cause, I don't think any of us really want either. So with that, I'll give it to Donna.
Thank you so much for hearing us today, and thanks to the city for always supporting us. I think, as you all know, we are not just a sober home, but we're an LGBTQ house, and I'd say that that's more of what we are than a sober home. Yes, like I would say over the past years, and as you all know, we have been there for several years before this code came into effect, and so we have been contributing to this community for several years, and the neighborhood itself has been a neighborhood where our clients or residents who live there are probably one of the most functional type of residents that live in this area. And, you know, our residents are people who work downtown. You know, we used to be in Lake Worth, and since we came to West Palm Beach, it's been, for our residents, 100% of our residents are able to get jobs, and so they are your servers at the restaurants like Cheesecake Factory or Planta or Sassafras. They probably cut your hair on the island. You know, we bring lawyers and dentists to this area, and they end up becoming a really integral part of the community. And so, you know, I think that we're actually extremely excited about this new development that's happening right down the street. And I think that, like, typically with these redevelopment type of projects, it's a place where LGBTQ people sort of help make the area a little bit more hip. And I think that, you know, we're already there. And so we feel like the neighborhood is catching up with us. And I think that, you know, we will be a highlight to the area for other, you know, other folks to want to come to the area. So, you know, we've never had an issue. You know, we've been there, and we don't have all that many people there. We are small, and, you know, we just hope that you allow us to stay, to continue to stay. It's an interesting time for LGBTQ people, and so it's important that they feel safe, and, you know, they do feel safe here in West Palm Beach, as you know, the city makes it a safe place. The mayor, you know, when I spoke with him about Pride on the Block, which is one of our fundraisers, you know, I did mention the housing situation, and, you know, he you know, says that the city does welcome us. They do want us here, and you know, we appreciate that, and, you know, we just hope that we can continue to stay, and we ask that you allow us to. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I did get some comment cards from the public, but I guess we'll have staff's presentation first, and then we'll do those. Thank you.
Again, my name is Claudia Baben. I'm the City Urban Designer in the Planning Division, and I am here to present to you the DAC case number 2302. As the applicant mentioned, the request is for a Class B special use, and this consists of two things: to establish a family community residence in existing structure in the residential district, and also to establish a community residence located within 660 linear feet from an existing community residence. Where this is located is 4149 Street, that is the address. You have on the South 8th Street, and you have on the east side North Dixie Highway, as you can see here on the photo. Surrounding this property, we do have east and west single-family dwelling units, and we also have multifamily dwelling units in the north and south. This is the actual existing structure in this property. It's a single-family dwelling unit, and it's approximately 2,189 square feet. The applicant is not requesting to change anything in this structure or to do anything with the property. This property, as I mentioned before, is located in a residential district. It is within the Bellsboro Park district and is also part of the residential enclave planning area of the downtown. Per section 94-106, a family community residence is permitted in a residential enclave planning area if provided a Class B special use permit, which is one of the reasons why the applicant is here to request that permit. And again, the other request is also about the 660 separation requirement from an existing community. The applicant mentioned that the other existing community residence that we have around 500 feet from the property is located at 3129 9th Street. It's managed by them, Inspired Recovery, and it has been there for a couple of years. One of the things that I would like to inform you is that the other property at 312 9th Street does not require to have a Class B permit because it is a legal non-conforming use. This property had that special use since 2016 before the Class B permit requirement became effective. And when they transferred that use to the new business, it was within the time frame that they can do so to continue to have that special use. Again, for 14 9th Street, Inspired Recovery applied for a certificate of use to the City of West Palm in January of this year, and this is when it was mentioned to them that because they are also in not only the residential and club planning area, but also within the 660 linear feet, they are required to have a Class B permit. And again, this is just reiterating the request, but I also want to point out that according to the section 946054, the Downtown Action Committee is the one that is able to approve this permit. And also a public notice, a notification of this DAC meeting was sent to all property owners within a 500 feet radius of the project. And the applicant also provided 2 letters of support, which are part of your packet as an attachment. One being from a person named Richard Palowick, which lives at 424 9th Street, and Nadia Lopez Ravelo, which lives at 449th Street. I would also like to just say, this morning I received an email. I received an email at 7:59 this morning that just said that I believe this is the person's name, Umesh Jadunandan of 535 8th Street opposes this request, and I'm just gonna give that to the secretary as to put it in the record. And then as community residents, in order for them to obtain this Class B special use permit, they do need to comply with additional requirements that are on section 94-273-3A and C. A is related to the 660 linear feet of an existing community residence. And for 49th Street, As they mentioned, they have been operating for a couple of years. And there is really no evidence that the location or use have interfered with the normalization and community integration of the residents of these community residences. As also the applicant mentioned, the existing residents are not located in the same block or the same district, and they are also separated by a major highway, which is North Dixie Highway, which that means that it demonstrates that no concentration or clustering of this use is really altering the residential character of the neighborhood. More of these additional standards are, it is a permitted use in this zoning district if they have a Class B use permit, which is, again, if you approve that. So they will be complying with that requirement. The community residence is occupying a single-family dwelling, which I mentioned before, and they're not really proposing any physical changes to that existing structure or any changes to the zoning district. The applicant has also provided a state license from the Florida of Recovery Residences, and you also have that as an attachment in your staff report. Again, one of the requirements for a community residence is to have this separation of 660 linear feet. This is a waiver that is being requested, again, by complying with the other two standards that I mentioned before, and actually having this Class B use permit. Staff recommends approval of this Class B use permit based on the findings that the petition meets all the standards as indicated in Section 94.2733 of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations. I do want to point out that in your staff report you had a condition of disapproval, and since then we have removed this condition. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll hear from the public and then open it up for discussion and comments with the board. I have two comment cards here. The first one is Thomas Boyton. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for hearing us. I want to first start to say that we're very supportive of LGBTQ, and we're very supportive of people finding residence that it's affordable. The one thing that we're opposed to, we live on 8th Street and own about 3/4 of the block and have a lot of studios and efficiencies. And so we have a lot of tenants that we're always trying to make sure that they're happy and living in a nice place. On 8th Street at 434, 436th Street, there's a community residence there at the end of the block. So that's just across the street. So this is not going across Dixie. This is from 8th to 9th Street. And we've had a lot of difficulty with that. We have the police showing up. We have people walking up and down the streets all times of the hour. There's a corner store on Dixie, a gas station. And so that's kind of also the local community where you get food or you get a drink. And so it's changed the feeling of our neighborhood quite a bit. It's not that you just see a neighbor that you know that's walking their dog. It's individuals that are transitioning continually. So you don't know who these individuals are. We've had a lot of issues where we've had fights. We've had the police come with armed rifles drawn. And again, I want to make it very clear, this isn't the recovery one that we're talking about today, but this is another house that's literally on the other side of the street that's being used for the same thing, and we've had lots of issues with that. And so that's our biggest concern, that this isn't going to be the same, because again, we want people to have housing. I support people that are going through recovery because it's a very difficult transition to do. But then to have so many recovery houses in such a small neighborhood, that's what our big fear is. We've been there since the early 90s, and it's just now that we're really seeing the neighborhood prosper. And so we want to see it a place for residents, and we do want to see it as a place that's all-inclusive and will be there for everyone. But we just feel that if we're going to start stacking this with recovery houses, it's really going to change the whole feel of Nora. When you have individuals that, and again, I can't speak for this recovery house, but the one on 8th Street, they're just there a lot of the time. You know, is suddenly when we have all these fancy businesses on 8th Street, are we going to have individual, and again, we want to open everything up to everybody, but what we find with recovery houses is it's not the same as a normal residence. The residents don't have necessarily the same opportunities or different struggles that they're going through, and it shows in the neighborhood. So again, we support you, we support your mission. We're just opposed to having so many recovery houses in such a in such a small location. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Susan Stechny. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Susan Stechny, and I live at 411 8th Street. And I've been there since 1998, so 25 years already. We also own the properties next door, 417, then 419, 423, and 425. And we have a variety of residents. Some of them are more meager in their incomes. They don't have a lot of incomes, and other people are lawyers and instructors from the university. So we have a wide variety of people living on 8th Street. But now we have a sober home at the end of our block at 434 and 436 8th Street. Men are continually in and out. I gave a photograph. I don't know if they're allowed to see the photograph.
I think I did get a photograph.
Yes. So that was on August 6th. Something happened at the sober home. There were 6 police cars, a fire truck. The officers all had rifles, and we never found out what was wrong. I mean, Nora finally is going to be able to lift up the community and make it a different place. And it's a small community. Brailsford is only 1 block wide, so from Dixie to Railroad, and 7 blocks long from 6th Street to 12th Street. So it's a small community, and to have another rehab facility residents within that small area, I think that's going to be harmful for the neighbors and for Nora. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We understand there's one card out there from a person in the public who has not been sworn in yet, so we are going to need that person who wishes to speak to stand and be sworn.
She's not going to speak.
Okay, I have Desmond Gilmore, LAHC.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Desmond Gilmore. I'm a resident at 449th Street. I've been staying there for about 4 to 5 years. And I know, have had contact with Inspire Recovery. Before I even knew that they were a program, before I made contact with them, because I also work in the industry with integrated healthcare systems, I never even knew that they had a facility there. You know, a lot of the times they remain confidential in regards to, the things that they're doing. When I do see their clients, they're usually supervised. And if they do go anywhere, it's like a quick, I'm going to the store and back, they're living their lives, they're respectable. I've never had any type of disrespect in regards to any client at Inspire Recovery. They're just pretty much a program that's just trying to help people out in the community. And a lot of these people do need help. And if they weren't there and became displaced, I'm not sure what would happen. But I just came here to support them today.
Thank you. Next is George Lydon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is George Lydon. I've been employed at Inspire Recovery since 2017. I've been a resident of downtown West Palm Beach since 2001. And just to point out, we've actually had residents in the neighborhood for 3 years, and fortunately, we've kind of flown under the radar, been rather unremarkable, which is a nice testament. We have a former client who lives on the 1000 block of Dixie Highway, works in a hair salon at that same location. We have a current client who's working at the Mutual Station right across the street on Dixie Highway between 8th and 9th. People who work on Clematis Street, at City Place, et cetera, people who are part of the community, and would like to see it stay that way. So I just wanted to weigh in as somebody who's been working in the neighborhood for almost 7 years and living in downtown West Palm Beach for 22 years. Thanks.
You. Okay, and I understand Jackie Nearing will not speak, right? Is that true? Oh, you will? Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you all
Have
for
you,
taking
have
the
you
time.
been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay.
I could do it again if you'd like.
No, it's
Okay. So again, just wanted to reiterate. Also, like, you know, I think of like the neighborhood, and you know, like I know like it is a sober home, right? There's a lot of homes in that area that aren't sober homes. There's a lot of people that come and go in that neighborhood to begin with, short leases, so like the spot at 414 is like a sober home, and the length of stay is like a year, 2 years. Like it takes way longer than just a 30-day for somebody to be able to rebuild their lives and get their feet on footing, and I think too of like the amount of people that come who have really built a family of choice, right? A lot of LGBTQ folk have been like disowned out on the streets from the time they were young, right? And like to be able to come and have a place and have dinner together and have structure and have stability and have people that are leaders in the community, people that have been sober a year, 2 years, 3 years, that are able to help guide people who do come in. So I think of like trauma and how it affects the brain, and safety in the brain, and displacement is gonna, like, you know, this idea, like somebody recently was talking about having a new doctor and how scary that is, right? And I think of like, oh my gosh, you know, these 6 people living in this house having to find a new house and how re-traumatizing that's gonna be, right? And so like yes, I know that sober homes have a bad rap, right? And there's never been the police at our place. There's never been any issue, right? Like it's not like the idea that was explained before isn't happening, right? It's a totally different environment. It's people who are coming to build their lives in a safe space for LGBTQ people in a city that welcomes the community. Like many people come here and say, oh my gosh, I've never been able to walk outside freely before, right? I come from this rural area in this other state and I get to build a life here. So it really instills hope to have a city that is so supportive. So, you know, I just wanted to like chime in and just reiterate like the importance of the safety and the stability that we contribute to the home, to the folks there, to the city, right? It's not what was just described. Like that's not the situation. So I just wanted to like clarify that piece. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for all the comments from the public and the different perspectives. I'm going to now open it up to the board for questions and comments and discussion. Michael?
Can I just get some clarification from staff on this property that has been mentioned, 436, 438 8th Street, and what we know about that property? Is it licensed? Is it an official sober home? What's going on with these?
We don't know. We don't know what kind of residence is. In our records, we don't have it as any certificate of use or anything for that.
Right, and this is the city attorney's office. I would remind the board that the board's duty today is to review this application and decide this application based on the criteria in the code.
I guess I just wanted to make sure that obviously staff has done their due diligence and there wasn't another legal sober home at that property, which is what I just wanted to clarify. So I guess I'll start.
Sure.
I guess there's, I think, a big difference between a legal sober home that is regulated by the state and other properties that may not be, which are causing problems in the community. I have a little experience with sober homes and regulations, and I know the state has really changed the regulations. It has become much more difficult to get licensed. And so the sober homes that are licensed are above board. I mean, the state really cracked down on this years ago. So there's that, and obviously we have neighbors that are living in the community that have issues with another property, which I just think we really have to treat completely separately. And obviously there's all sorts of ways to enforce issues in the neighborhood that are going to have to be looked at from the neighbors, but we're talking about something completely different for a regulated home, which really, it sounds like the only issue here is a few feet of separation between the sober home on the other side of Dixie, which is also owned by the same people that have been operating for a couple of years, which apparently aren't causing any problems in the community. And just based on the testimony, I think we have to kind of, which I'm glad we had so many people come from the facility. I guess I just have to make a kind of gut call or gut decision that obviously these people are, to me, seem like a very good, upstanding citizens that are working hard to help people in this community that are going through transitions. And I've been in downtown West Palm for 13 years and have been part of the neighborhood association for many years. And we deal with all sorts of issues that we're trying to work on. In fact, our neighborhood association this month is having a meeting at the Donna and Ann Brown Theater to talk about mental health and what can be done to improve, these issues that we're facing constantly. So I really do think the sober homes play a very important part in helping people with the issues that they're having, and they're integral. I mean, we don't have enough services in the state, in the county, locally, in the city to deal with this, and it sounds like we have a very good facility here that's working really hard to assimilate these people. And so, again, based on the testimony, based on the people that have come and spoken, that are working there, I can't imagine that this is a sober home that's causing duress, or in fact, it's doing the opposite. It's helping try to resolve issues so we don't have people that have mental illnesses or challenges get back on the street. We need services. We need more services like this. So I'm all for their variance. It's obviously a very small difference in the 660 feet. It is also in a different neighborhood. So I don't have any. Actually, I support it. I'm all for trying to have good facilities like this help the people that are in our community get better and assimilate into the community. So.
Thank you, Michael. Ms. Allen? Please.
Yes, I have a question for staff, please. The special class B, is there a duration of this permit, or is it one permanent once we grant it is forever, or is there a renewal or review period? Or, for example, renew every year, every 2 years, or once it's granted?
It's tied to the property, so the use will stay with the property. And if the use, for example, if this business Inspire Recovery leaves the property, it has 90 days to be terminated the use or abandon the use. So that's when the use will be gone.
Okay. Because the reason why I asked is because I feel very similar to Michael Cuevas. I'm very supportive. One is of co-living, and I think with the high cost of living these days, and then also the fact that the sober home is helping people to recover and improve their lives, I'm very supportive. But I'm also hearing the other residents, and I feel, if there's a balance, a check and balance, and once we grant this special class B, I don't want it to be like forever and no other, and the rest of the neighbors have no other chance to kind of have their voices heard. Or
I have a few comments, if I may.
Oh yeah, Brad, go ahead.
I similarly share that concern that if this business were sold or if a new operator came in, the use is permitted, and as lovely as this applicant may be, the next may not be. And hearing the residents from the street, one street over, they're very real life issues they've presented, and the code sets forth a prescription of criteria that must be satisfied for the permit to be issued, and evidence must demonstrate that all of those are satisfied. I don't believe that they have been. I also don't really think it's in a different neighborhood, these various sober homes, and particularly with the proximity to Nora. I don't think that I don't think I can support the use based on the code and criteria.
Which one of the criteria?
If you can pull them up, I can tell you. And further, I support the efforts and the reality of the impact on the residents and clients' life. There's no question there. It's just my view that that's not before the board today in any respect. All we are being asked for is a use permit based on criteria. So you might be literally the best operator and the most helpful. I don't think that's a criteria that we're being asked to evaluate. So when I look at the criteria, I'll go one by one. The applicant shall demonstrate that the proposed community residents will not interfere with the normalization of the community and the integration of the residents. When I hear the explanation of the residents who are on 8th Street, which is one street away from 9th Street, I understand that their specific story related to a different home, not this one, but I don't know that it has been demonstrated to me that it won't happen, or that there has been evidence that it won't happen, particularly if a new operator came in. If this use permit is forever, there is no duration. And as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, so I'd like to know, if they sold the business, the use permit stays there. Is that correct?
Yeah, the property is.
Yeah, so it's in perpetuity for the success. It could be 100 different owners, if I'm right.
Yes, can I step in right quick? Angela Van, Planning and Zoning Administrator. And you have to understand with our special use, Class B special use permit, yes, it runs with the land. Somebody can come in and can buy it, but you still have the requirements and the conditions they still have to meet. It's not like somebody comes in, they can operate any way they want to operate. No, you still have requirements that they still can meet, like the conditions of the requirements of the Class B still have to be met. You still have to be, you have nuisance issues. If the police keep coming out, that's a nuisance issue. And you also have FAR. FAR also have their regulations where they also go in, because we require anybody, so if a new operator come in, one, they have to get certified by FAR. That's the requirement. They have to do that, and FAR has their own rules and regulations. So it's not just say another tenant comes in, operating, and not as efficient as the Inspire are. But again, there's still rules and regulations. City still has to go to enforce to make sure they're not a detriment to the community and the surrounding community. So we still have that. So just not a blanket approval that goes on forever and the city never does anything about them if it come in as another operator that's not as efficient as the one that's before you today.
Understood. And I know the city has code compliance, and code compliance can drive by and receive complaints as well as the police, but I think that's a little bit different than what I'm talking about. Can you flip to the next slide with the additional criteria? One of them talked about clustering, and when I see one on 8th Street and one on 9th Street and one 500 feet away, it sure sounds like clustering to me. It is a residential neighborhood and not meant to be a neighborhood of businesses. I've heard from many other residents of that neighborhood on other projects, and I know the value they place on their neighborhood and how much they love it. And so I don't think the criteria that I've mentioned have been satisfied, and for that reason, I'm just looking at the criteria again. Let me reiterate, not the impact or how great you may be. That's just not before us. I'm looking at the criteria, and I can't support.
Thank you. Gabriel. Greg?
Yes, based on the item presented, I have no objections. It seems that while there may be discrepancies in would my colleague present. But the way I'm looking at it, as staff outline what needs to be met, and the 75 feet discrepancy seems it may not be an issue, as the applicant, it seems like they are willing to comply. So that's my only comment. As long as the applicant is willing to meet the demands from the city, then that's my only comments.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Jones?
One last comment. Since I wrote the regulations along with the consultant, when we did 660 feet, it's actually an average city block in the city of West Palm Beach. So that's what it was based on. It was based on making sure between one block, you didn't get a cluster of community residents. And that's what it's based on. Not necessarily, we understand some areas you would be 660 feet when they cross a major road and a major, but that's not the intent when we wrote it. The intent was a city block is average 660 feet, so that's how it was written.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's input here. I think my comments are that this is a complicated issue, a lot of different perspectives. I think with the balance of all those and the city's recommendation, I would support this. And so with that, I think I'll turn it over to the board for a motion.
Nick,
I'm sorry.
I just have the applicant, they want to mention something?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one thing, is that the address that these people were speaking of is not a sober home. So this is a house that seems like perhaps maybe there are people there that have substance use issues. It sounds like something completely different than what we're talking about. And it's great, you know, we don't want a place calling themselves falsely a sober home and representing anything of what we do, you know, a regulated, you know, sober home. So, you know, I apologize to you all, and I'm grateful that you did bring that to the attention, and hopefully that situation will be fixed. But the clustering between that house and our house is unrelated because that's not a sober home. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
One quick comment on that. I think that the criteria we're to evaluate is that the residence in combination with any existing community residences. So I think the differentiation between sober home or not, I'm not sure it matters as much. We're just supposed to evaluate what the various community residences in the area.
Thank you.
Again, the residents that they have pointed out, we do not know or have records on what that is. It's not a community residence. It doesn't have a certificate of use or a business tax.
Right, and I think, again, as the city attorney's office, we need to discuss the issues which are before us today, the application which is before us today, and apply the criteria in the code to this particular facility. I understand community concern, and that's certainly something which needs to be addressed by the city in another context, but not here today.
Yeah, I was reading verbatim from the code, I think applying it to the existing community residences, and it sounds to me like that is a...
But that's not a community residence, what you're discussing. It's a home, it's a private home, and I guess there are people in that. It's not a, what's a community residence under state law and under our code is a very specific definition of a licensed facility. It doesn't mean it's a house where people live who are unrelated. It's a very specific definition.
Right. I understood it to be maybe unlicensed, but still a community residence. I don't know.
No, that's not the meaning. The meaning is very specific. It's a licensed facility.
I have no intention of arguing, but I don't know that we have the facts before us to say exactly what it is.
We do have the facts before us today. The facts before us today are the facts which were presented. You had community come and speak about an unlicensed house that apparently has people living in it who are causing problems. So I just want to make sure that we're discussing the facts in the application before us today. I don't know what the other residents were discussing. I do know that staff has told us today they're not a licensed facility, so they don't fall under the definition of community residence under either the state nor the local code.
Again, I appreciate everybody's input. This is a very timely topic, and so I think with everyone's comments, the comments from the public, I'll open this up for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. I move the Downtown Action Committee approve DAC case number 2302, a request by Donna Weinberger of Inspire Recovery, LLC, on behalf of property manager Abe Haruvi for a Class B special use permit to establish a family community residence as required by section 94-106, A7, and to grant a waiver from section 94-273, 3A of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations to allow the community residence to be located 500 feet from the existing community residence, as listed in the staff report dated September 6, 2023, subject to the following condition. The applicant will not seek approval for no condition, I'm sorry, strike that out. The motion is based upon a determination that testimony presented at this hearing along with the applicant submitted constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Article 2, Section 94-36E.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I hear a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
I think. Okay, motion carries. Okay. Good morning.
Morning. Alex Hansen. I'm the city's comprehensive planner with the Planning Division. The item before the committee this morning is the 2023 evaluation and appraisal review of the downtown master plan element of the city's comprehensive plan. Just a little bit of background and also just a reminder, we had a brief conversation on this item at the August meeting of the committee. The evaluation and appraisal review is based on a number of state requirements, specifically Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes indicates that every 7 years, each local government in the state must evaluate its comprehensive plan and determine whether amendments to the comprehensive plan are necessary. This is to reflect changes both in the state requirements since that period, as well as other changes to the conditions in the municipality. And also the municipality must at that time notify the state as to whether the changes will be required. And this is again what is known as the evaluation and appraisal review of the comprehensive plan. There's a number of other requirements and deadlines and schedule associated with the evaluation and appraisal review. I'm not going to go over each one of them, but again, it's regulated by the state. There are specific deadlines and schedules related to that. As I indicated earlier, every municipality in the state is required to go through this process. As far as the deadlines and timelines for West Palm Beach, the first set of deadlines was that by December 1st of 2022, we needed to indicate to the state whether we thought that whether we had determined whether any changes were necessary to the comprehensive plan as part of the evaluation and appraisal review. So in November 29 of last year, we sent a letter to the state indicated that we had reviewed the comprehensive plan and that we had determined that changes would be needed to it. Then based on state guidelines, the state responded, indicated that then we had until November 29 of 2023 to process these changes, at least to transmit or send to the state whatever changes we thought were necessary. Just a little bit of background on the comprehensive plan of the city. We have 13 elements in dealing with a variety of issues, future land use, transportation, housing, conservation, you name it. One of those 13 elements is the downtown master plan element, which is the document that regulates development in downtown. We are in the process of updating or making changes to 9 of these elements, but the one that is in front of this committee are the changes to the downtown master plan element only. And again, this is just samples, future land use, transportation, and then we also have the downtown master plan element, which is the one that is in front of the committee today. Also, we have 26 maps in the comprehensive plan, dealing with a number of different issues from infrastructure, natural resources. We are updating all of these maps as part of this process, but none are related to the downtown master plan. So what the committee is seeing today is only the changes to the text of the downtown master plan element. As far as the proposed revisions to the DMP element, I would say that these are fairly minor in scope. We're doing a lot of updates, clarification of some policies, information on new data that we have. I'm going to go over each one, but I just want to clarify that these are fairly small in nature. First, the introduction section of the element is being updated to reflect the most current development and population data for downtown. And this is also highlighting, this is a section that is highlighting the area's growth since the adoption of the original downtown master plan in 1994. The data that we had was 7 years old, again, from the last EAR, so we're doing some updates to that. We're also changing some provisions in policy 111 that have some reflect the scale, the historic character, and also reference some desired connectivity improvements for the Northwest Neighborhood District. And in addition to that, in that same policy, we have another section that pertains to the Nora District. We're just kind of clarifying the name. We had the reference to the North of Railroad Avenue District, but not everywhere we had a reference to Nora, which is the way that the district is known as. We're also updating a number of policies that will still reference the City Place District. Again, the name has changed. Now is the Square, so we're just making those changes. I'm not sure in 7 years we'll be making more changes to this section to reflect a new name for that district, but that is, several policies need that revision right now. We're also updating a reference to the Downtown Master Plan Housing Incentive Program. This is to reflect the correct name of the program. We had it named as, with some different terminology there. We're also making some revisions to add a few other policies to change some other terms, clarify some practices, fairly minor items. We're also making some changes to DMP policy 313. That included some references to the conversion from the original 1994 Downtown Master Plan to the 2007 Master Plan. So again, 1994 was what is known as the Duani Master Plan. Then in 2007, the city did a significant set of changes. This was done by a firm, Siskovich and Associates. So there's some sections in this policy that kind of explain that transition. We do not believe that that language is appropriate in the policy because the policy tends to provide policy direction, and this is more like background history. As a result of that, we're actually changing or moving most of the language to the introduction of the element, so that we still have some historical background there, but again, we do not believe that this language belongs in the policy because it's not policy direction. And then finally, we are deleting some language in the Appendix 1 of the Downtown Master Plan element that deals with a maximum development capacity. This section contains a lot of outdated information from 2007 that is no longer relevant. Also, I want to mention As far as capacity in the downtown master plan, we have a language in the future land use element as well as in the transportation element dealing with what is known as the traffic concurrency exception area. And then we have some development caps associated with that. This is for the downtown area. So we believe that the language that is being deleted is not only obsolete, but is no longer needed in this appendix. So again, the changes that we're proposing are fairly minor in scope. Just from a timeline, as I indicated, we have been going through this process for now several months. We did have a discussion with DAC last month. We also had a discussion with the Planning Board and the City Commission with regards to the entire set of changes that we're proposing, not only for the downtown master plan element, but all the other elements that we're changing. We're here September 13th on the DAC meeting. After this, we're going to go to the Planning Board for a hearing next week on September 19th to discuss the changes that you're seeing today, as well as the other changes to the different elements and the different maps. Then, based on that requirement that we have from the state that we have to transmit by November 29th of this year, we're going to go to the City Commission sometime in November for the first reading. This is, again, what is called the transmittal hearing. And then we're going to be submitting all these amendments to the state for their review. As part of the EAR process, the state and regional agencies have 60 days to review it. So we'll be transmitting it in November. There will be this review process, and then based on whatever comments we receive, then we will go ahead and adopt these amendments. The expectation is that this should be happening sometime around March of 2024. Again, the staff's recommendation is of approval for that case 2303. This recommendation is based on the findings that these proposed amendments are consistent or meet Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes, and also they comply with all other appropriate statutory requirements, and they're also consistent with the other elements of the comprehensive plan. Again, staff is recommending approval of this case. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Any questions? Yes, Ms. Ho?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. One is in the new paragraph on page 5. Let's see. There's page 5. I think it's just for chronological. I mean, it's just a very minor issue, just to shift one of the paragraphs to make it more chronologically in order. So paragraph, page 5, there's a whole bunch of them that started in 1994, and then 1994, and then 2007, 2707, and then go back to 1994. So I just want to shift the whole paragraph, the new additional paragraph, to the later portion. So just for the chronological order reason.
We can look into that. And again, this is just for reference. This is what I indicated, that we had shifted some language from a policy that was mostly kind of a historical language, and we move it away from the policy and we put it in an introduction. So that is what Ms. Doe is referencing at this point. But we can look at.
Yeah, it doesn't change the substance, the content.
We can look at maybe relocating it within that same section.
Like in the toward the end, maybe toward the end. And then the other one comment I did see have is on page 10, referring to the square. It says the square is primarily low scale. I don't think it's low scale anymore, so maybe you can consider changing some of the description, because it's not really low scale anymore with all this new high rises coming up. This is on page 10, paragraph L.
Yeah, I see what you're speaking of, and this reference mostly the development west of Rosemary, which I would argue is still low scale, but there's a high-rise building that is under construction that would include some residential there, so we can adjust that.
Okay, thank you for those. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have a quick question. I'm also asking for quick clarification from Alex. I know you mentioned there are 13 elements, and it seems that to me that only the downtown element is being updated.
No, as I mentioned, we are actually updating 9 of the elements, 9 of the 13 elements, but the only one that is in front of this committee is the downtown master plan element. So all the other elements, the downtown master plan, as well as the other 8 elements that we are updating, again, 9 out of the 13 are being updated, will be presented in front of the planning board next week and will go in front of the city commission. But based on city regulations, Downtown Action Committee is responsible for providing a recommendation on the downtown master plan element. So that is the only one that we're bringing to this committee, but we are updating, again, 9 out of the 13 elements that I listed at the beginning of my presentation.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Great. With that, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
So sorry, I do have one other question
Go
on
ahead.
the affordable housing. There's a, sorry if I can find it, there's a reservation for at least 10% of units for people with up to 100% AMI. Do you remember that? I can't find
Yes,
the location,
that is
but
the
yeah.
workforce, that is the
Yeah,
existing
affordable
regulations
workforce.
for downtown.
Yeah,
Correct.
so my question is, so it reserved 10% for people with income of 100% AMI or less, but I didn't see any place where it says the rent that would charge them. So let's say, if, okay, their income is 100% AMI, that's fine, but then if they end up paying like 75% of the income for the rent, and that doesn't help.
Yeah, workforce housing programs, you actually, the requirement is that people are not supposed to be paying more than 1/3 of their income in rent or housing cost.
Right, so is that stated somewhere?
There's, in the zoning regulations, that's where the detail of that program is outlined.
Okay then.
So again, the comp plan just provides a general vision, then the zoning and land development regulations for the downtown master plan get into a lot of the detail with a lot of the provisions or policies that you see in here and the element. So that is the big distinction between comprehensive plan and element and the zoning regulations. That's where kind of the substance or the meat, the details of the policies are.
Okay, as long as it's stated somewhere. Okay, thanks.
Motion for approval. I move that the Downtown Action Committee recommend approval for DAC case number 2303 as listed in the staff report dated September 13th, 2023. The motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented at this hearing along with the application submitted and staff report constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The committee hereby makes findings of fact that the proposed amendments meet Chapter 163 Florida statutes and all other appropriate Florida statutory requirements and are consistent with the different elements of the city's comprehensive plan.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on, Alex. Moving on. Yeah. Keep going.
The code revision case will be postponed, right?
Yeah, if you could just make a motion that'll be postponed to the next October meeting.
Could I get a motion?
Not for me. I've accused myself.
Oh.
A motion to postpone this next code item to the October meeting?
Yes, please.
We have to name that, what's the?
Code revision case number 2304.
Code revision case 23-04. We're going to postpone to next DAC meeting in October.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion's unanimous. Meeting next time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And then in other business, good morning again, Chris Kimmerly, Urban Design Planner. we have here before you an update to formal site plan review 2221. This was for the 120 South Dixie Highway project that was presented before you all in August. The plan did receive DAC special review approval. However, there was an additional condition levied by the committee in regards to seeing a finalized update on the elevation drawings on both the east and west facades. So the condition there states, prior to the issuance of the final site plan approval, the applicant shall work with the city planning staff to revise the elevation drawings for the east and west facades to provide additional elements complementary to the north and south facades, not limited to the optional removal of the arches. The revisions are to be brought back before the board for approval prior to the final site plan. Staff has evaluated the revised elevations from the applicant and has determined that they do meet the proposed regulations, the proposal meets the regulations of section 94 109, table 4 facade articulation requirements, as well as our table 4-5 projection standards, and it is still within the intent of the original special review standards and approval. And the applicant will have updated renderings provided here.
Good morning, staff. My name is Hained. I work with Covey Carp Architects, 571 Northwest 28th Street, Miami, Florida 3327. So we were here before staff on August the 9th, and greatly we got some comments that that we had applied to the east and west facade. They were kind of plain. And we tried to bring the elements from the south and the north facade into the west and east. And as you see, right now, they're updated. That was the previous and the revised. So right now, we try to enhance the facade, trying to bring and connect the north and south facade into it. This is the west facade. Right now, this is the entrance on the Tura. That's basically what we have to present today.
Thank you. Could you bring up that first slide again, then we'll turn it over for comments, concerns?
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I was the member who raised the elevation issue on the east side, and yes, this is much improved. If you put that slide back up that shows them, what was first presented to what's now, obviously two completely different elevations now. They look much improved. It's unfortunate that Roger's not here, Board Chairperson Jansen, because there were some issues with respect to the thickness of those balconies, the walls that frame in the balconies at the 6th level down. And I don't see that got lightened up a little bit, or holes punched through it, or something to kind of loosen that up. But that wasn't my argument. I think this is fully satisfied, and it's a much needed improvement, and it looks good job.
Thank you.
With the east elevation.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Were all those changes done with just colors and materials, or did things move in and out to create shadows? Because it seems like there's a lot more black and dark on that right side.
They were done with colors, and we tried to keep the recommendation from staff as well.
Great. Okay, if there's no other further comments, I'll turn it to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve the elevations as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Is that it?
So any unfinished business? Any new business? Okay, so I guess we already did that, so I think we're, oh, go ahead, sir.
Rick, can you give us a quick status on EPL and how it rolled out? Now, I know how it rolled out, but how are we doing today?
Rick Green, Development Services Director. It's a transition. We're still working out some minor kinks that we have. I mean, the good news is that the whole system did not crash. The key, of course, is that we transferred 30 years of data that was in Community Plus. And again, not just building data, but engineering, code enforcement, et cetera. So as we're working through the system, we're finding some kinks, some communication link issues that we're trying to resolve. I would hazard to guess it's probably going to be about 2 months before everything is running perfectly smoothly. But having said that, we're still processing permits, we're processing applications. There was about a 2-week period of time where we were literally converting the old data to the new, where we could not accept building permits. So we had to literally manually transfer those 600 or so permits from the old system to the new, that came in during that interim period. So there's a little bit of a backlog that we're trying to work through, but Melissa Corrales and our staff has been doing a wonderful job working with IT. Tyler Technologies, the vendor that we've been using, have been down here. They've had 5 or 6 people when we first made the transition, working with the 12 or so different departments that are using EPL. So it's working well, but it's just, again, a few kinks we've got to work out.
Will you be having those information sessions for the consultants anytime in the near future?
We have a series of tutorials that we have online, and we certainly encourage everybody to go to the website and look at those and make sure that you're familiar with logging on and doing everything that has to happen. When we have our next developer outreach meeting, which we'll probably do at the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th, so I'm guessing probably second or third week in October we'll have that. We'll probably spend a great deal of time talking about EPL. And as we move through the system, we're looking at what our needs are going to be in the future. So we'll mention that. I'll also mention, and I don't know if Dodie wants to mention it, but we're also going to be rolling out a new process called Open Counter. And with Open Counter, we didn't want to run this forward at the same time we were trying to implement EPL. So now that we're getting a little bit further along in EPL, we're going to roll out Open Counter. But what Open Counter allows a person to do, whether it's a resident, a developer, from the comfort of their own home, they can log into a system. And the example we like to use, if they want to open a pizza business, they can go into Open Counter. A zoning map will show up. It'll identify all the locations where a business could be open depending on the type of business they want to open. And our hope is that that's going to address a lot of the concerns that a resident, a developer, a business person may have in West Palm Beach. So you can select what use you want to implement. It'll show you where you can do it, what processes are required, what forms you'll have to submit. So it'll be an easy directory, if you will, for people who want to open a business. So that's called Open Counter. As we get further along in that system, we'll certainly talk more about that.
Thank you.
Well, since I have you, Rick, while you're up there, just was hoping maybe to get an update. I know it's been something we've talked about for a long time, but I've been hearing some new rumblings regarding the crossing on Fern, potentially to Clear Lake. I heard there's maybe some new developments there. Do you have any information on that?
We're cautiously optimistic that that's going to happen. I mean, this was an idea we floated, probably 9 years ago. We think it's probably going to come to fruition. How we pay for it, I'm not sure if we've defined that yet, but we have been having discussions with engineering, and certainly they have been talking to all of the governmental entities involved in this. So we think it may happen, so certainly as we get more information, we'll certainly let you know.
As far as you know, I'm sure, I don't know if we're in any kind of planning stage at all, but if we are, is this most likely going to be at grade? There's not going to be any sort of flyover?
In all likelihood, it would be at grade. There's going to be a little bit of a bend, and I believe there's some property that may need to be acquired as part of that. So that's one of the things we're looking at. We originally devised 4 schemes for the Fern Street crossing. We narrowed it down to 2, and I think there's a preferred alternative. Alex, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but so I think we have a configuration now as you're coming down Fern. It would meander a little bit and then connect into Clearwater. But again, with a project of this magnitude, obviously it's going to take time, but I'm optimistic that it's going to happen. You know, we're working on a mobility study right now for our entire downtown. You know, the word we kind of heard in preliminary conversations that if we're successful in getting Fern Street operational and built, that could conceivably take 20 to 25% off of the trips off of Okeechobee Boulevard in the morning that are coming in. So it would provide a relief to that roadway. So yeah, we're going to keep pushing for it.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, just a quick apology. I think I called Miss Doe, Miss Ho, and Mr. Gregory, Mr. Gabriel. I got your names totally flip-flopped, so I apologize for that, Miss Doe and Mr. Gabriel. So call you by your correct name. Thank you. And if anyone doesn't have anything else, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.